And which? Wait, let me get right from left. Yes, okay, I got it. I'm so good at this clicky thingy. Um, thank you so much, Natasha, for inviting me to be here. It's such a pleasure to end this like amazing day. And I was thinking like, how can I best contribute to this mission of creating inclusive and spaces of belonging? And then I thought, okay, I've been doing I've been doing this for okay. I'm not good with the clicky thingy. I've been doing this for a while. And this being a community builder. For those of you that are Taylor Swift fans, I came prepared. Um, and so through ever since I don't know, ever since I was a baby, I obligated people to participate in my stuff, and because my stuff normally were collective endeavors, that meant I had to learn how to convince people to be part of my stuff. And then when that transformed into being part of the game developer ecosystem, and I found out what game jams are and what those events are, I was like, okay, I want more of them around me. So I started to build them. And part of that was, oh, that photo is very bad. But it was in my master's degree, like starting to organize the things that I wanted to exist. So meetups, game jams, opportunities to connect with other developers, inviting them in. And then later on, being part of Ludoteca in Lisbon, we did like this crazy, we didn't exist for 100 years. There's not 100 years of game dev in Portugal, but we pretended that it was. So that, that created, it went to the news and everything. So we were very successful at inventing and just like showing that we were here, that we existed. And then we also kickstarted more of this, the Game Dev Lisbon, which was a community interested in creating more of a belonging space that would be welcoming for the English-speaking people that started to move, you know, with all the remote workers, and especially during COVID, that started to exist in our local space. Yes. Okay, so I divided this talk in like, what are those steps of like both inspiring and becoming inspired. So this was the first thing for me, right? Becoming inspired with a mission. And so for me, that mission was to, when 2019, in my first DevCom, and Gamescom, so all the thing together. But I think it was a DevCom. I remember Rufina and Astrid organized this Flinta meetup, and in in those spaces, I got to meet women in games, and I was like, okay, who are they? What are they doing? What is this thing? And so I saw that, okay, there's this, back then in 2019, I didn't know a lot of other things that existed and that they were doing things that reached me. They were based in the UK, but they started this thing called the Ambassador Program. And I went to the website and I noticed like what type of countries they were in, and they weren't in Portugal. So I was like, maybe I could be the one that do this. So yeah, for those of you curious of what they do, yeah, they were founded even like before that in 29, and they have these verticals of action of policy, education, industry, and community. You might think that there's like this huge organization, but one of the things that I loved about it is when I really met them and who were behind it, is not only these women, but for me it was like these older women. And I was like, oh yes, I want to be a badass grandma when I grow up. And so, and so that was part of my becoming inspired. I just wanted to be like them. And so I joined, and this is the current collaborator teams. So both that executive and then this other amazing people, Mary Jane, Paula, and Gemma. And the seven of us had been kind of the people behind like what it means to then support this thing that grew bigger than ourselves. There was a lot of other people throughout the years, by the way, which is part of why this talk started, is like, okay, how can we keep people that are just volunteering their time and just giving their abilities out of love to not burn out, because that's also something very real in this volunteering space. So this is like a couple of things that we've been doing as projects. So we have publications, an example, the Building the Fair Playing Field guide that has both problems identified in some spheres of actions, but then also solutions and interviews with people in those spaces, the Women in Games Manifesto, our core events, which currently are the monthly social networking gatherings that we're doing every month online, the global annual conference that also through COVID and also now through our global community is also online. Everything of this thing is online now. And the Careers and Development Network Expo and the ambassador only event. We also have some chapters and affiliates. Currently, those are the ones recognized, or they're connected legally through our organization. So both the Asia chapter and Women in Games Italia. And then some key programs, which are the programs that if you know about it, if you know about Women in Games, probably you know it through this, which is like our individual ambassadors, the corporate ambassadors, and educational ambassadors. Okay, so I was like, okay, I'm so inspired. As I told you in the beginning, I saw that they didn't have anyone in Portugal. I was like, okay, I want to be involved. I want to be involved in this thing. And so I started as an ambassador first. And then after a year, they were looking for someone that could support the other ambassadors. And I had time in my hands. Being like starting my career in games, it is very turbulated. We don't have time to go there, but but you know, sometimes you're in, sometimes you're out, sometimes you have projects, sometimes you don't. And so I was like, okay, I could do this. I'm available. And so I applied, I interviewed, and I became this ambassador coordinator, and I supported building it up. I think when I joined, there was 64 people. No, 64. I think probably even before. It was already in the hundreds. But now, as you can see, is in 2,400. It's 500 now because I just onboarded 100 more people in over 80 countries, and we have a wide range. The biggest thing is that we're trying to make it as professional as possible, so that those ambassadors could be people that help others. But they could range from students that are already, you know, in the third year, and they could inspire the students before them, or in the space of esports. Sorry, because it is so hard to be, you know, full-time influencer or streamer. Of course, that might not be your main job, but if you're doing it in a professional way, that also, you know, already have some experience, we also accept people in that space. So it is very wide ranged what being a person professional in games is for us, and that is part of the inclusion and advocacy space as well. It is because we don't want to gatekeep what being in games means, and we all that are here in the industry, you know, sometimes it is easy to think, you know, developers only in our little corner. But it is also great to see people, you know, in the transmedia space and the way that they bring and they cross beyond games. Or, you know, a lot of the sponsors in these events are the people in sales and having products and things like monetization. You know, if it weren't for them, they couldn't sponsor then our events, and then we didn't have the spaces to exist. And they also then support the games itself and the way that they reach to players. So actually then our ecosystem is it's wider than what we give it credit to. Yeah. And so knowing, okay, now I had this thing, I'm involved, I know what I'm meant to do, but how can I then support these ambassadors to really do their best work? Like, as you can see, having a wide web, that's cool. Sorry. In the big range also means that, you know, you will have people that are in the industry for 10 years, and you'll have people that just got in, and they're like super keen, and maybe they have the most time and the most excitement, but it is so hard to do that first thing, and also so hard to see that that thing might be enough. And what does that mean in the big spectrum of things? So what I try to do is lead by example. So every time that I have an opportunity, I'll put myself in the position or either organizing or supporting an organizer, so that they have someone to talk to, and then that I could communicate to others, hey, you can just do this thing. So this is a very good example of something that, I don't know, maybe some people would say that it is like not as impactful, because you can see this was a meetup with only 4 people. And this represents the first time. I am original from Portugal, and I moved to Berlin for a new game studio in 2023. And I didn't know anyone. I never seen Berlin. Like, I accepted a job and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll move. And they were like, don't you want to see the city first? And I was like, how hard can it be? Like, how different from Lisbon? Apparently, a lot different. And so when I came from the first time to see it, I didn't know anyone, but I had that network, right? I knew that I had ambassadors. So I went to the website and I was like, okay, who here lives in Berlin? And then I made a little open call of like, hey, I'm going there, I'm visiting. And the other thing that I didn't know is that Germans like to plan ahead a lot more than Portuguese do. So I only like did the open call like at, I think, a week. I thought that was so much time. And it was during like work hours, and it was like at 4 p.m., something like that. So I was like, people will show up. This is going to be great. But, 4 people showed up. And so, and 2 of them were organizing it. So, and the other 2, I remember one of them, Melanie, she worked close by, and we had to change locations because I chose the wrong cafe, or I think I got lost. I don't know. And she was like, this is very unusual. You cannot change the location like 5 minutes before. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I just don't know the city. And she was like, you're so lucky that I just working nearby. and I decided that this was important. And now she's like my best friend in Germany. but that is the journey, right? Is like, okay, the impact of this little thing, and then the act of showing up had in each other's lives. Now all of these people, like Marie, like she's in a lot of biz dev and B2B like type of events around the world. So she's like a safe person that I have to say hi, like every time that I see her again. Melanie, like she was the rock star that saved me in a very bureaucratic situation that I had to speak German and I didn't have anyone. And I just call her like, come save me. And all of those personal things that happened and that made me belong to this new ecosystem of game development happen because of this first thing. Because I said, okay, let me show other ambassadors that can also do the same. It doesn't have to be this big thing. It doesn't have to be that planned. Maybe it should be a little bit more planned. But you can just, call 3 friends and have them show up. And that is already leading by example, showing others that you're there. Other examples here are just how can we not only connect with bigger venues. This is in DevGam Lisbon, yeah. And not organized by me, it was organized, I think, by Melanie and Maria. And but they wanted to have like, it's not necessarily legitimacy because they already did it before, but they were like, well, hey, since you're there and you're the ambassador coordinator, do you want to join in and like support? Because probably there's like new numbers, for example, which I'm not updating them correctly in our information, in our materials. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm doing my best, but it's like they keep growing. And so this was a great tool for, again, training new people. And one of them, Carolina, so the others were ambassadors for longer. She was like just fresh out of the batch. She was like, I don't have anything to say. And we're like, yeah, but you have, because a lot of us, we're not joining to start doing things. The reason why you're like accepted as an ambassador normally, like you put your, like what you've been doing, why are you passionate about this? What are the ideas that you're already bringing to the table? And I wanted to show that is also valuable. Like it is valuable, your presence, your early passion and the way that that inspires others to keep doing the same and keep showing up and keep taking space as well, because that also meant that we had space, we had this panel, we had this space that people knew that they could come and they could talk about this type of topics. And the Nitrado panel is an example of that, how this ecosystem of the corporate ambassadors and individual ambassadors can connect. So not only for things like even sometimes recruitment or events like that, but also when Nitrado, that is a corporate ambassador, wanted to do something and it's like, okay, how can we support more? How can we show that we're here and that this matters to us? Then they set up again this very intimate, like it looks like, oh, this is like so corporate, but no, it was they just opened the doors of their office. It was all the women in the office and then their 3 partners. But it was great that, and then we just had like this very good conversation with someone that gave us space, opened doors, and said, "This is safe. This is yours." 4th step in this is like filling the gaps, because this is also like super good. It's like, oh, Father, you're so inspiring, but also, it is very hard when you don't know what to do. You cannot be everywhere. I cannot infiltrate myself in all the events. And there's always, and especially when you're a global ecosystem, right? There's going to be ambassadors that are in time zones that you don't have access to, or they feel maybe sometimes less supported because of that. So the next step is like, okay, how can I build more materials and give more spaces for discussion, for information, and for sharing. And so a lot of the resources that we've been developing throughout the times is making sure that we have this kind of onboarding deck that is constantly, well, annually updated. So to the best of our abilities and to the best of the changes of maybe conduct or even like changes on the program itself, because it's a lot different rules for when it was 60 people than now rules when it's 2,000. And then at some point, those onboarding emails start to be very, very big. It was like a novel that I was sending people, like, hey, we have this information. You can join through like LinkedIn and Facebook and Discord and then Twitter and Mastodon, like, and then all the social media wars like popped up. And so there's like all these different links, and I was like, okay, maybe I have to centralize this a little bit more. And then the ambassador only website was born. And you can see again, oh, I'm so sorry, I downloaded this wrong. You cannot see, but this is an example of like how that centralized version of a material website looked like. It was just like, okay, how can we create a version that is like clean enough, still pretty, still easy to use, but that ambassadors feel like it belongs to them. It's also secret, like it is password protected. That's why it's pixelized. It's not because I did it wrong. And within these materials, not just the materials itself, but then how do you use them, and how do you make actionables that people can just like pick up and use, that is not just like the labor of you having to come up constantly with new events or constantly with ideas. You also want to be supported in that type of ways. So things that I always try to do is like, okay, how can I create kind of this template activity or short investment activities that you could still feel like you're part of this community, you are in the belonging, but you can do it in your own terms, in your own way. You can bring a little bit of the flavor of what makes sense to you. And so, for example, for Christmas, we did this Women in Games Giving Back idea that was like, okay, what is this giving back? Not like tangible things. What is our ambassadorship is about kind of shining a light, being there, being present, sharing our stories. So the goal is that we are giving something of that every day. So every day a different ambassador joined in and shared an advice, shared a resource, shared her own story. Just like, this is how I got here. If you want, you can talk to me. And I think just even that openness and that just giving that time is so, so valuable. And that's what all of them did. I have more photos of this in the report that I'll talk in a minute. And another tool was, for example, when we did the fundraising event this year, like not an event, but like an activity. Again, same logic. We're thinking, yeah, this is all nice, but it's like super hard to do things like that, right? Especially when you're nonprofits. Like, what does this even mean? Like, this feels weird. If you're not a person in that type of space, and also sometimes you're working for even other organizations, and maybe you would like to know how you potentially can fundraise, or what are potentially, I don't know, things to say or ways to act. So we try to build this fundraising toolkit to support ambassadors. Like, if you want to be part of activities like this, here's some of like the potential steps or questions or things, or I don't know, your own experiences, or then materials, like creating like branded materials that you can use and share. And then that's the part of like inspiring this community, but also being inspired by it, right? Like, how do you then do that? Because one of the most difficult things is keeping track of all these activities, especially when they're done around the world, when they're done asynchronously, and when there's again, there is a wide range of even understandings of what your role is. And I've been struggling with this for a while. Is like, okay, I feel I'm failing then because I'm not doing anything with all these reports that are coming through. And so this year, finally, well, last year, but we were able to put it all together in this annual report. So all of the ones that at least got reported to us directly, and just to have an idea of how the report looks like inside. It is online. It is available now. It gave me so much work because so all of those, all of the names of the ambassadors are linkable, so you can find them all on their respective LinkedIns, which is the platform that we're using as this visibility platform for ambassadors. You can click in all, I think, like the links for the event, so you can see what they have done, the way that they communicated about it, what was the outcomes of a lot of those. And you can see like the diversity of events as well. Like, again, the December one is just about sharing some thoughts online. Here in February, it was all about giving a workshop. This is a GDC Mixer was just like showing up in a garden. Not a lot of like planning with like sponsorships and things like that. But up there in January, that was like one of more, organized with a panel, with sponsors, like in a space, with tickets, like things like that. So hopefully things like this would allow you to see the wide range of the impact of what you're doing. Yeah. And so here's the, in the end of it, sorry. So it's a little bit of like all of that, kind of those steps that, at least for me, made sense to build and support this particular community. But I also think when I looked back after doing this analysis, I think this is the steps for all of the other communities. That is exactly what I did when I was in school, in college. I was like, okay, we are organizing this event, but no one knows about it. Like, okay, how can we communicate it? Because if no one knows about it, no one cares. We don't feel like we're together, because then people are not using, we don't have a school logo, and then we made one so that we feel like we could use that to build more. We didn't know, how school works. So like when you finish, then there's no continuation. How can we make sure that the students that will come afterwards would keep our work and have like kind of that legacy? And so looking back, all of those steps were exactly all the steps that I used to build all the other communities before me, and hopefully the communities that'll come after me. And yeah, this is my talk. Thank you so much.